point across. John Butler joins us along with Missouri Student Body President Peyton Head. John, you stopped eating last week. I'm wondering, were you surprised how quickly the president stepped down and now the chancellor?
You know, I wouldn't say that I was surprised about the president stepping down and the chancellor. Honestly, it should have happened earlier. It should have happened before the hunger strike, just because former system president Tim Wolf had a track record since he's been in office of just being negligent and not really performing the key roles of his duty as the system president. So we really, honestly, you know, I've reiterated this all day, but we really should have never gotten to this point.
Peyton, I wonder, I mean, for those who do not go to the University of Missouri, can you explain what the campus atmosphere is like for African-American students?
Especially at this time, it's very tense. It is unsafe, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we have been calling for leadership in a time where students have been saying over and over and over that we feel unsafe and we feel unincluded in this campus community. As student body president, that is my job. I bring these issues to our administration so that they can address them. What I've seen over the course of my year in office here at the University of Missouri is a lack of response, a lack of concern for these issues that marginalized students have been bringing to the attention of administration for years.
John, just on a personal level, I mean, when you were not eating, I mean, to go on this hunger strike, did you have any doubts at any point?
I don't think I had any doubts because for me, I never took it as a deficit approach. A lot of people know how corrupt the system is, and they thought I was going to die from day one. From the moment I made my announcement, people thought I was a dead man walking. So for me, especially with faith in God, I really didn't look at it from a deficit approach that I would die. Even though I took precautions that I might, I really did come at this with an approach of victory, knowing that the fact that the harder we fight, the greater the reward.
You said you took precautions. You might. What do you mean?
Precautions in terms of updating my living will. I did have a DNR signed. There are other precautions in terms of, you know, what would happen, you know, with certain things in terms of if I had a seizure, if I went into a coma, and I outlined those things in documents to make sure that people know what to do if any of this would have turned out poorly.
So you were really prepared to go that far?
Yes, this was not a light decision. I've been facing issues on this campus as an undergrad since 2008, and now as a graduate student here, I've been facing these issues, and so this wasn't an easy decision to make, but over the past 2.5, 3 weeks, prior to the hunger strike, I really took some time with consulting my spiritual leaders, my pastors, and other mentors about this decision, and knowing that I am truly committed to this change. That's what I really set my heart on doing, and it just was the necessary precautions just in case anything happened.
And this is important. I mean, as an undergraduate, you were saying you've been facing these issues going back to 2008. Did you feel unsafe on campus?
I felt unsafe since the moment I stepped on this campus. But the thing that we've been pushing to everyone is that we love Mizzou enough to critique and to fight against the injustices that we face at this school. So my first semester here, I had someone write the N-word on my wall. I've been physically in altercations with white gentlemen on campus. You know, I've had other incidences that have gone on. And for me, it's just, I've always not felt welcome at this university because the campus hasn't been in a welcoming and inclusive environment.
Peyton, Missouri's Lieutenant Governor, Peter Kinder, was on a radio interview today, and he said that you and the students had no legitimate authority to drive the president out and were seeking, quote, governance by mob rule. Those were his words. He also said it was reminiscent of Ferguson, which he called a catastrophe. I'm wondering how you respond to that.
In regards to that comment, you know, I have nothing to say. I think that shows the lack of leadership in this state. That's a problem, and it shows the fact that this is not just, you know, a system issue. This is a national issue that we need to address as a whole. You know, these incidents that we're seeing on this campus are not single isolated incidents. Racism is systematic, it's institutional, and we are not blaming Mr. Wolf for institutional racism. What we have a problem with is when we have a leader who's supposed to represent these students who are coming from all 50 states, over 120 different countries around the world, not understanding the history of this institution and how it's played a role in perpetuating systems of violence towards marginalized and minoritized students. So that's what I think that the people in this state need to educate themselves on. And that goes all the way up to, the Capitol, that goes to our system, and it goes to the nation as well.
Well, Peyton Head and John Butler, I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hello, my MGTOW brothers, back again. And in the previous clip, what you just heard was the interview that John Butler, the graduate student from the University of Missouri that went on the hunger strike in protest of racism at that campus. Alongside him was the student body president of the University of Missouri, Peyton Head. The reason for me using this particular clip and for me making this video is dealing with something that I had previously promised that it would be the last topic I would bring up on this particular channel, and that's about race. I've watched a couple of John the Other's videos about what's going on in Missouri. And like most MGTOW commenters, I agree with about 95% of what they talk about. But then there's this 5% that raise the hackles on my neck. Now I want to put this forward before I get started. I don't mind white people, and I'm going to use the term white people, commenting on race and what black people do in the United States, if they're accurate. Even if what they have to say is negative about black people, if they are accurate, I have no problem with what they say about black people and race. And I will even co-sign what they say about black people and race if they are accurate. So what they're saying is that social justice warriors, and I think they mean to be white social justice warriors, are making up things, or black social justice warriors are making up things as a means to protest underneath a false narrative. As a black man in America that's gone through this system, I can tell you undeniably that is absolutely utter fucking bullshit. It takes a hell of a lot for black students and black people to protest, to get out in the streets. It's never over one incident. I can tell you that from being in a couple of Los Angeles riots. It's never over one incident. So when I hear that all this kerfuffle or this protest and driving out of a president of a university is about some feces drawn on a wall in a student dorm, I can tell you undeniably that's bullshit. It doesn't happen that way, because black people don't work that way. And what white folks don't understand is how black people actually work in this particular society. So that clip was to get the voice from the horse's mouth, so to speak, the man at the center of this particular action that involved football players. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read you another account, not from a student, but from a professor, a tenured professor that's been there for 18 years. Now, this account comes from Cindy Smith Frisbee. She's a journalism professor at the University of Missouri. What brought my attention to Miss Frisbee is an account in an article I read. I can't quite remember the article or but I'm going to read you a Facebook post that she put up. I think it was last week, but I'll put the link in the description. And I'm going to read it for you to show that this is not an isolated incident. This is not something that's just made up. This is a pattern of behavior that has been condoned at the University of Missouri. She writes, "I have been silent on Facebook about the racial situation on the Mizzou campus for a variety of reasons. But the main one is this: some of my friends say and post updates that are really hurtful and offensive when it comes to race and offending people of color. And I keep quiet because I don't think Facebook is a place to hold arguments or candid discussions of race. Think about it. No one changes their attitudes or beliefs after seeing offending posts and respond to the post by saying, "Oh my God, thank you for showing me that I'm a racist." Or, "Oh my God, because of you, I just realized that I am so privileged." However, after many events on and off campus over recent months, I feel I have to say something, and say it here. You know, this is going to be long, right? Laughing out loud. I have lived in Columbia and been at the university for almost 18 years. During this time, I have been called the N-word too many times to count. Some of you may have recalled my most recent experience while jogging on Route K in May of 2015, when I was approached by a white man in a white truck with a Confederate flag, very visible and proudly displayed. He leaned out of his window. Now keep in mind, I run against traffic, so his behavior was a blatant sign that something was about to happen. Not only did he spit at me, he called me the N-word and gave me the finger. Of course, I responded with, "Oh yeah? Get out of your car, you coward," and say that to my face. He then raced off. Typical. Others of you might recall that after the Zimmerman trial, I wrote about my experiences about being called the N-word twice while I was on my jog. And yes, I have had a few faculty call me the N-word and treat me with incredible disrespect. Yes, faculty. I have had a student who said he couldn't call me Dr. Frisbee because that would mean that he thinks I am smart. And he was told that blacks are not smart and do not earn degrees without affirmative action. Yes, true story. I have so many stories to share that it doesn't make sense to put them all here. What I'm responding to is the frequent question I have been asked all week. How have I endured these many hateful experiences for over 17 years, and why am I still here? I endured because God allows me to see the good and cup half full. I endured because I know my life is in God's hands and I do not walk alone. I endured because I find these to be teachable moments that I use in my classroom with my students. I endured, or better yet, endure, because I have an amazing support system. I endure because there are far too many of my white friends that have a heart of gold, love people of any color with a passion, and who have a strong trust in and love for the Lord. Skipping down. The saddest of all things for me is to see how a few of my white friends are responding to these events and basic conflicts and race relations in our nation. In essence, police shootings, the president, etc. It hurts my heart when I see posts from those friends that make fun of us because we find things hurtful, like dressing up in blackface costumes or Confederate flags flying high in my neighborhood. What bothers me is that the few of my white friends who feel this way have not taken time or energy to reach out to me and ask me why these things hurt, or to understand what it is that's going on, or even send an email saying that they are confused. Skipping down. I write this post to ask if those folks who find the situation on campus as ridiculous to please be a little more open-minded, ask questions, do your research. Heaven forbid you will put yourself in their shoes. Maybe you should dress up in blackface and spend a month walking around in that costume, and maybe then you will understand how we feel when you walk in a room or store and get treated like a second-class citizen. Maybe then you will understand that our feelings about being constantly referred to as niggers is more than just get over it. Maybe then you will understand why telling students to get their ass in class because they are making much ado about nothing hurts and doesn't solve the problem.